They didn't say goodbye. They didn't look back. One day, they were part of your life, and the next, they weren't. They moved on. And you? You're still holding the pieces. But here's the real question. Now what? It starts with silence. The kind that doesn't shout, doesn't argue, just disappears. They stop calling, stop texting, stop checking in. No big explosion. No dramatic ending. Just nothing. You scroll your phone and realize you're always the one reaching out. You tell yourself they're busy. You make excuses. You replay conversations. You look for the moment it changed. You blame yourself. You wonder what you missed. One day, they were in your life. And the next, they moved on, without telling you. Friendships, relationships, even family. Sometimes people leave not with slamming doors, but with fading footsteps. And the ache that remains isn't just about losing them, it's about not knowing why. You feel ghosted by life, abandoned by the familiar. You question your worth in the absence of someone else's attention. It's a strange grief, isn't it? To mourn people who are still alive. To feel forgotten by people who once knew you deeply. To carry conversations you'll never get to have. So you hold it all inside. The what happened. The was I not enough? The why didn't they stay? But here's the shift. The small, quiet insight that begins to loosen the grip. They moved on, and you still matter. It feels like their absence erased you. But that's not true. They left, and you're still here, still breathing, still worthy, still becoming. You don't need someone else's presence to validate your value. Their silence is not your sentence. Their distance does not diminish your depth. Sometimes people move on for reasons that have nothing to do with you. Sometimes they grow in different directions. Sometimes their capacity for connection runs dry. Sometimes they're just not ready to face you, or themselves. And yes, sometimes people leave because they don't know how to stay. But you know how to remain kind, to remain open, to remain whole, even with the ache. So here's the deeper truth. They moved on. But maybe that's the moment you move forward, not with bitterness, not with resentment, but with clarity. Because here's what you need to remember. Being left behind does not mean you are behind. It means you're being invited into a new season, one where your growth isn't dependent on who claps for you, one where your healing isn't waiting on their explanation, one where you get to rebuild, not out of revenge, but out of reverence for who you're becoming. Let's pause on that. You are not stuck. You are not forgotten. You are not less. You are in transition. You are shedding. You are learning how to hold space for yourself when no one else does. And that's powerful. Because one day, you'll look back on this season not with pain, but with pride. You'll see that the day they moved on was the day you stopped waiting and started rising. Let me tell you a story about Mara. She's 47, a mother of 2, a dependable friend, the kind of person who remembers your birthday, texts you when she sees something that reminds her of you, and shows up with soup when you're sick, even if you didn't ask. Mara had a group of friends she'd known for over a decade, women she met through her kids' school, then grew close to over shared coffee, carpool rides, and long walks while venting about life. For years, they were her people, her safety net, until they weren't. It started subtly. The group chats got quieter. Outings were planned without her. When she'd suggest meetups, replies were polite, but non-committal. At first, she brushed it off. Everyone's busy, it's just a season. But deep down, she knew. Something had shifted. The real sting? There was no confrontation, no falling out, no final straw, just an emotional drift she couldn't stop or explain. And one Saturday morning, scrolling social media, she saw a photo. Her group at brunch, laughing. Without her. No tag, No invite. Just proof. They'd moved on, and she was no longer part of us. The ache was quiet, but sharp. It wasn't just about missing an event. It was about feeling invisible in lives she once helped hold together. She cried in the car. She questioned everything. Was she too much? Too sensitive? Not fun enough? For weeks, she spiraled through blame and shame. Then one day she did something simple, but life-altering. She unfollowed the group chat, she deleted the photo, and she picked up her journal and wrote, "If they're not in my future, it's okay, because I still am." That day, Mara stopped trying to fit into spaces that had outgrown her. She signed up for a pottery class alone. She started walking new trails. She texted a different kind of friend, someone she'd always admired but never gotten close to. And over time, something happened. She found new people, not replacements, but reflections. People who valued her presence without history holding it together. Mara didn't stop missing what she lost. She just stopped shrinking to mourn it. And one evening, in her tiny backyard, surrounded by new laughter and the soft clink of ceramic cups she made herself, she smiled. Not because it didn't hurt anymore, but because she finally felt whole, again. Not through their return, but through her own. Mara's story holds a truth many of us try to ignore. Sometimes people don't leave dramatically. They simply drift. And the lesson is not in how they left. It's in how you return to yourself after they do. When you've poured your heart into a relationship, a friendship, a community, and then you're quietly excluded, it does something to your sense of identity. You start to wonder if your value was conditional, if you only mattered when you were needed, if belonging was ever real in the first place. But Mara teaches us something radical. You don't need someone else's consistency to prove your worth. The ache of being left is real. But the story doesn't end there. Because what she did next is what changed everything. She stopped trying to re-enter a space that no longer made room for her. That shift, from questioning her value to protecting it, is the most important part. And maybe that's where you are now. Maybe you're wondering if it's you. Maybe you're replaying conversations, looking for clues. Maybe you're grieving what you thought was forever. But here's the truth. It's okay to outgrow relationships. It's okay when they outgrow you. And it's okay to bless what was, even as you let it go. Mara didn't get closure. She got clarity. And that's often better. Because closure depends on others. Clarity depends on you. You see, when someone moves on without explanation, it forces you to ask a harder question. What will I do with this absence? And that's where growth begins. Not in being chosen again, but in choosing yourself. What Mara found, new friendships, fresh routines, her own laughter, didn't replace what she lost. It revealed what she had left. Her voice, her time, her possibility. She stopped shrinking to fit where she no longer belonged, and in doing so made space for something new to begin. That's the lesson. Not that loss doesn't hurt, but that healing doesn't wait for an apology. You can move forward, even if they never look back. You can create joy, even if they forgot how much you mattered. You can love yourself fiercely, even if they couldn't. And that's not just recovery, that's transformation. So let go of the space they left behind. Not with anger, but with open hands. Because what's ahead of you deserves all the room they once filled. You are not unfinished because someone left. You are unfolding. If you've ever been left behind, without a word, without closure, you know the kind of silence I'm talking about. It's the kind that doesn't just echo, it accuses. You start hearing all the things you were afraid were true, that you weren't important enough, fun enough, strong enough, needed enough. I've lived through it too, more than once. There was a friend I thought I'd grow old with. We used to call each other sisters. We talked every week, prayed together, raised our kids like cousins. And then one year, she just stopped answering. No fight, no final text, just distance that grew roots. At first, I begged the universe for answers. I wondered what I said wrong, what I missed. I wanted to fix it, even if I didn't understand it. But here's the thing, no one tells you about being ghosted by someone who once knew your soul. The real pain isn't the loss. It's the narrative you create in their silence. You start telling yourself it was your fault, that you're too much or too broken, that if you were better, they would have stayed. But healing began when I stopped asking why they left and started asking why I kept waiting. Waiting for people who weren't checking in, waiting for closure that wasn't coming, waiting for permission to feel okay again. I realized I had made their exit the center of my story. I'd let someone else's absence define my presence, and that was never going to heal me. So I did what felt small but powerful. I wrote them a letter I never sent. I told them I forgave them, even without an apology. I stopped checking their social media. I poured myself into new spaces, new rhythms, new voices. And with time, I stopped needing them to come back. Not because I didn't care, but because I started to. I cared about me, my growth, my joy, my peace. I learned that sometimes people leave not because of who you are, but because of what they're avoiding in themselves. And that doesn't make them villains. It makes them human. And you? You're human too. So give yourself grace. Give yourself time. Give yourself back to yourself. Because your story is not over because someone stepped out of it. It's evolving, and you're not behind. You're just at the chapter where you remember that healing isn't about who comes back. It's about who you become in the silence. Here's what they never told us growing up. Not everyone stays. And that's not a flaw in you. It's part of the nature of being human. People evolve. Seasons shift. Some paths diverge without warning, and some closures never arrive. But the beauty of life isn't in how neatly every chapter ends. It's in how courageously you step into the ones that begin without fanfare. The ache of abandonment? It's real. But so is the quiet triumph of finding yourself in the aftermath. You learn to cook meals for one with music playing. You go for walks with no destination, and somehow find new roads. You talk to strangers at cafes and realize the world is still wide, still open, still full of soft entry points. Because the point isn't to replace who left, it's to rebuild who remained. And that person? She's wiser now, softer in some places, stronger in others, more discerning, more daring, more free. There is a beauty in beginning again, not in spite of what you lost, but because of who you've become since. And yes, some memories will always sting. You might see a photo or hear a song and feel the echo of what used to be. But echoes fade. And what's real, what's next, is waiting to be lived. Let this be the season where you stop waiting to be re-invited into someone else's life and start inviting yourself fully into your own. You don't need their approval to bloom. You don't need their return to rise. You just need the audacity to say, I am still here. I am still whole. And I'm still becoming. So if today you're feeling left out, unseen, or unchosen, take heart. You are not forgotten. You are being redirected. And what's ahead of you is not a consolation prize. It's a deeper becoming. The kind that can only happen when you stop trying to rewrite the past and start honoring the person who's showing up now. You. You're not behind. You're just beginning. What's something you've always waited for someone else to give you? Attention, closure, love. That maybe it's time to start giving to yourself? If this resonated with you, hit subscribe. Not because we want numbers, but because we're building a quiet community here of people growing, reclaiming, healing out loud. You're not alone. Not anymore. Welcome to the Wisdom Series.